The semi-truck's grill filled my windshield like a goddamn apocalypse. Headlights blinding me as it barreled through the red light on that rain-slicked Seattle freeway. I remember the crunch of metal twisting around me, the seatbelt slicing into my ribs like a knife, and Jake's voice, my husband, the man I'd bet everything on, screaming my name from the passenger seat as the world flipped end over end. But the real gut punch? In those final seconds, as blood pooled warm on my lap and my vision tunneled to black, I saw my father's face in the rearview, smirking from the shadows of my memories. Because he'd rigged this whole nightmare from the start. I jolted awake gasping. Not in a hospital bed or some ethereal void, but tangled in my old twin sheets. The ones with the faded lavender print from my cramped UW dorm room. My heart hammered like a jackrabbit's, and I bolted upright, staring at hands that weren't scarred from that last botched manicure or the wedding ring I'd worn for 5 hellish years. These were smooth, unlined, 22-year-old hands. The alarm clock blinked 7:14 a.m. October 15th, 2018, the day before I was supposed to meet Jake for our first real date. The Uber driver who'd pick me up from a rainy campus party and change everything. Except this time, I knew how it all ended. Betrayal, poverty, and a staged crash that pinned my death on a drunk driver to cover my old man's dirty empire.
重sinh,
Reborn. Whatever you want to call it. It hit me like a freight train all over again. I'd read those cheesy web novels in my past life, scrolling through fanfic on my phone during those long nights scraping by in food banks. But this was real. Sweat soaked my tank top as fragments of my death replayed. The anonymous tip I'd gotten about Dad's offshore accounts. The accident that silenced me before I could blow the whistle on his Ponzi scheme. He'd always hated how I saw through his Wall Street charm, the way I dug into Mom's suicide when I was a kid. But marrying Jake? That was the final straw. A blue-collar nobody from Tacoma, driving for pennies while Dad built skyscrapers on laundered cash. He disowned me at the wedding, cut off my trust fund, and whispered in Jake's ear just enough to plant the seeds of doubt. Except Jake never turned. He stayed loyal till the end, even when we were eating ramen in a one-bedroom with a leaky roof.
No.
The knife in my back was all Victor Harrington, my father, the king of Seattle real estate, who'd bury his own daughter to protect his throne. I swung my legs over the bed, bare feet hitting the cold linoleum, and laughed, a sharp, bitter bark that echoed off the cinderblock walls. Holy shit, I muttered, running to the mirror. Willow Harrington stared back, all wide-eyed innocence and chestnut waves. Not the gaunt 30-year-old ghost I'd become. The scar from my C-section, our daughter, Lily, who'd never made it past the first trimester in that crash, gone. The worry lines from eviction notices vanished. I had one shot to rewrite this mess. No more playing the dutiful daughter. No more blind love that left us destitute. This time,
Ide Marijeka. All right.
But I dragged Dad down from his pedestal first, brick by goddamn brick. And when he came crawling, I'd make sure he tasted every bit of the dirt he'd shoveled on my grave. By noon, I'd already pivoted. My phone buzzed with texts from Dad's assistant. Mr. Harrington requests your presence at the gala tonight. Black tie. 8 p.m. Sharp. In my old life, I'd gone, dazzled by the crystal chandeliers at the Four Seasons, sipping champagne while Dad paraded me like a trophy to seal deals with Russian oligarchs. That's where I'd first spotted the cracks, offhand comments about disappearing problems, ledgers that didn't add up. This time, I texted back, can't make it.
Studying.
Then I blocked the number. Small rebellion, but it felt like flipping off the universe. I threw on jeans and a hoodie, grabbed my backpack, and headed to the student union for coffee. The campus buzzed with that autumn crispness, leaves crunching under Converse sneakers. Kids laughing about midterms like the world wasn't a rigged casino. I spotted my roommate, Tessa, chain smoking outside. "Willow, you look like you saw a ghost." "Rough night." "You have no idea," I said, forcing a grin. Tessa was the only real friend I'd had back then, the one who'd crashed on our couch after the wedding when Dad froze my accounts. She'd seen me at my lowest, sobbing over Jake's overtime shifts. "Listen, I need a favor. Can you cover for me if anyone asks where I am?" "Family drama." She arched a brow, exhaling smoke. "The Harrington Empire calling? Girl, tell Victor to shove it." "You're better than that silver spoon bullshit." If only she knew how right she was. I hugged her quick and dashed to the bus stop, my mind racing through timelines. In 24 hours, I'd accidentally summon an Uber to the wrong address, a dive bar off campus, where Jake moonlighted as a bouncer on weekends. Our meet-cute had been pure rom-com, me, drunk on cheap tequila, him pulling me out of a fight with some frat boy. Sparks, banter, and 6 months later, vows in a courthouse with Tessa as witness. But this time, I'd go sober, eyes wide open. The bar smelled like stale beer and regret when I pushed through the door that evening. Neon signs flickered over pool tables, and a jukebox wailed some old Springsteen. Jake was there, all broad shoulders and easy smile, carting a group of co-eds at the door. God, he looked the same, faded flannel over a white tee, jeans worn at the knees, that tattoo of a compass on his forearm peeking out. In my past life, he'd been my anchor, the guy who'd fixed our carburetor with duct tape and dreamed of starting a mechanic shop. Dad had called him a leech, but Jake, he'd never asked for a dime. I sidled up to the bar, ordered a soda, and waited. When his shift broke, he wandered over, wiping his hands on a rag. "Hey, you lost? This ain't exactly the sorority spot." I met his eyes, hazel, steady, and felt that old pull, mixed with the ache of loss. Maybe I'm right where I need to be. "Name's Willow." "You?" Jake Riley. He slid onto the stool next to me, skepticism melting into curiosity. "All right, Willow. What's a girl like you doing in a dump like this?" We talked for hours. About his dead-end jobs, my suffocating family, the way Seattle's rain mirrored the gray in our lives. By last call, he was walking me to my bus, and I was slipping him my number with a promise. "Pick me up tomorrow. Make it official." As the bus rumbled away, I leaned my head against the window, plotting. Step 1, lock in Jake. Step 2, graduate early. Leverage my econ degree into a junior analyst gig at a firm that audited Dad's competitors. Step 3, unearth the skeletons. Mom's death wasn't suicide. I'd bet my second life on it. The coroner's report had smelled fishy even then, pills that didn't match her prescriptions. A note too polished for her messy handwriting. And the crash? Brakes tampered. Witnesses paid off. Dad's empire was built on bodies. And I'd been next. Weeks blurred into a whirlwind. Jake and I were inseparable, late-night drives in his beat-up Civic, makeout sessions in Pike Place under the market lights. He opened up about his mom, a nurse who'd OD'd when he was 15, leaving him to fend for himself. "World's full of sharks," he'd say, gripping the wheel. "Gotta swim smart." I nodded, hiding how well I knew the waters. Dad's calls escalated. Voicemails laced with charm. Sweetheart, this phase with the townie? It's adorable. But think of your future. Then anger. You're throwing away everything I built. I let them pile up, using the silence to fuel my fire. By spring, I was interning at Vanguard Analytics, crunching numbers on real estate fraud cases. Irony? The lead auditor was an old rival of Dad's. A grizzled ex-Fed named Harlan who'd lost a fortune to one of Victor's investments. Harlan took a shine to me. You've got instincts.
Kid.
Like you were born sniffing out bullshit. If only. Late nights poring over files. I found threads, shell companies tied to Harrington Holdings, payoffs to city councilmen for zoning loopholes. And Mom, her maiden name popped up in a buried transaction. A consulting fee, dated a week before she died. Heart pounding. I photocopied it all, stashing copies in a safety deposit box under a fake name. Summer hit, and Jake proposed on the ferry to Bainbridge. Ring from a pawn shop, but his words pure gold. I ain't got much, Willow, but I got me. And that's yours if you want it. Tears stung as I said yes, remembering our courthouse wedding. The way he'd held me when Dad's limo peeled out without a backward glance. This time, we'd do it big, Vegas. Baby.
Skrutradition.
But Dad beat us to the punch. He showed up at my internship on a muggy July afternoon, all tailored Armani and that cologne that screamed old money. The office went quiet as he strode in, assistants scattering like roaches. Willow, he boomed, voice dripping paternal concern. We need to talk. Harlan hovered in the doorway, arms crossed. I stood, chin up. Not here,
Dad.
and not about what you think. His smile didn't reach his eyes. This boy, Jake, he's using you. I had my people look into him.
Debts.
Juvie record for hot wiring cars as a teen. Come home, and we'll make it disappear. Lies. Mostly. Jake's record was sealed. Debts from student loans he'd never taken. But the accusation landed like a slap, echoing the whispers Dad had planted in my first life, nearly breaking us. I leaned in, voice low. You don't get to play savior anymore. Walk away, or I'll make sure everyone here knows about the gifts you've been sending to counselor bribes. His face paled. Just a flicker. But I caught it. You don't know what you're meddling in, girl. Try me. I turned back to my desk, heart racing. That night, over takeout Thai, I told Jake everything, minus the rebirth part. My dad's poison. But we're building our own thing. Trust me. He pulled me close. Calluses rough on my skin. Always have.
Babe.
The wedding was a fever dream of neon and vows under the Vegas sun. Jake in a rented tux that hung loose on his frame. Me in a thrift store gown with lace that scratched like secrets. We laughed through the ceremony, toasting with plastic flutes of bubbly while Elvis crooned off-key. No family on my side. Just Tessa as maid of honor, snapping pics on her flip phone. To hell with Victor Harrington, she toasted, clinking glasses. Jake squeezed my hand, oblivious to the storm brewing back home. We honeymooned on a shoestring, camping in the Mojave, sleeping under stars that felt like second chances. But reality crashed in fast. Dad made good on his disownment the day we crossed back into Washington. A courier delivered the papers, trust fund liquidated, credit cards canceled, my name scrubbed from the Harrington will. For your own good, The note read in his looping script. Until you come to your senses. Jake found me sobbing in our efficiency apartment.
Rent 2 in Feidedink.
Hey, it's us against the world, right? He wiped my tears. But I saw the strain, the way his jaw tightened when bills piled up. In my old life, this broke us slow, him driving double shifts, me waitressing at a diner where grease clung like regret. We'd fought over pennies, made love in the dark to forget. Lily's pregnancy had been our light, until the ultrasound showed no heartbeat and the crash stole the rest.
Not this time.
I wiped my face. Stealing. We're not scraping by. I've got a plan. That night, I emailed Harlan my resignation, framed as a personal venture, and pitched him on a side hustle, freelance forensics for whistleblowers. He bit, forwarding my first client by dawn, a union rep stiffed by a Harrington subcontractor. We moved to a studio in Capitol Hill. Walls thin, but rent split 3 ways with Tessa. Jake kept Ubering. But I pushed him. Enroll at the community college. Mechanics program. We'll make it, he grumbled, but signed up. Pride warring with practicality. Meanwhile, I dove into the dirt. Late nights with my laptop. Cross-referencing public records. Hacking basic firewalls with tips from a shady Redditor. Mom's fee led to a Cayman account, funneled through a front called Evergreen Partners, Dad's baby, laundering kickbacks from port developments. The first real break came in September. An anonymous source, me, using a burner, tipped the Seattle Times about irregularities in Harrington's waterfront project. The article dropped like a bomb. Real estate mogul faces scrutiny over union busting. Dad's stock dipped 8%. And his calls flooded my voicemail. Rage veiled in velvet. Willow. This is sabotage. Your mother's turning in her grave. Mention of mom ignited me. I called him back. Voice steady. Funny you bring her up. How about that life insurance payout you got right after? Or the forged note in her handwriting? Silence. Then a chuckle like breaking glass. You're out of your depth. Darling. Drop this, or you'll regret it. Threats. Classic Victor. But they fueled me. By Christmas, Jake and I were turning corners. My freelance gig snowballed, exposing a slumlord here, a tax dodger there, and I funneled half into a joint account. Jake aced his certs, landing a gig at an indie garage specializing in EVs. Feels good. Will, he said one snowy night, grease-streaked and grinning as he fixed our heater. Like we're driving our own road, but shadows lengthened. Tessa overheard whispers at a bar. Dad's PI tailing us. Photos of Jake's juvie file circulating in high society circles. He's painting you as white trash. Babe, she warned over coffee. And Jake as the gold digger. The controversy hit when Dad went public. A puff piece in the Post-Intelligencer. Harrington heir squanders legacy on deadbeat groom. Quotes from concerned sources detailed our struggles, complete with a blurry shot of us hauling groceries in the rain. Social media erupted. Harrington heartbreak trending. Trolls calling me a sellout. Feminists hailing my fuck you to patriarchy. It was a circus. Klieg lights on our poverty porn. Jake took it hardest. I ain't good enough for you, he yelled one night, slamming cabinets. Our first real fight. Echoes of the old life. I grabbed his face.
Fierce.
You're everything. He's the fraud. Let me handle this. My response? A blog post. Anonymous but pointed. The real cost of empire. How one family's secrets buried a legacy. I leaked redacted docs, Nothing prosecutable. Just enough to stir doubt. Shares skyrocketed. Podcasts dissected it. Dad countered with lawyers. Cease and desists piling up like snowdrifts. But cracks showed. Investors pulling out. A class action suit from evicted tenants. Spring brought our first big win. Harlan looped me into a DOJ probe, insider trading tied to Harrington. I consulted off books. Piecing the puzzle, Mom hadn't suicided. She'd confronted him about the schemes. Threatened to go public. The pills? Slipped in her wine at a reconciliation dinner. Autopsy fudged by a bot coroner. Proof? A digital trail in server logs I'd mirrored before my old death. Armed with it, I met Dad at Neutral Ground, a sterile conference room downtown. He arrived smug, flanked by suits. Come to beg. I slid a USB across the table.
Watch.
Then decide if you want the feds next. His eyes narrowed as footage played, grainy security cam from that night. Him pouring the glass, her slurring protests. Color drained from his face. Fabricated. You destroy your own blood. For Mom? In a heartbeat. My voice cracked. But I held. You killed her. And you'd have killed me too. If I hadn't. Wised up. He leaned back. Calculating. What do you want? Money? The company? Nothing yet. Just know I'm coming. Every brick you laid on her grave, I'll unearth it. I walked out, legs shaking, but lighter. Jake waited in the hall, having insisted on backup. Proud of you, firecracker. We drove home to our new one-bed, our first real place. Paid with my earnings and made love like conquerors. But Dad wasn't done. He struck back sly, funding smear campaigns, op-eds painting me as unstable, grief-stricken over Mom. Jake's shop got audited. False claims of under-the-table work. Controversy swirled, TV panels debating family versus fortune, my face plastered on tabloids as the disinherited daughter. Friends ghosted.
Clients hésitated.
One night, eggs splattered our door. Traitor scrawled in yolk. It tested us. Jake drank too much. Doubts creeping. Maybe he's right. I drag you down. I fought back tears, remembering our crash. His hand in mine as life ebbed.
No.
We're the storm now. Summer peaked with the leak I orchestrated. Full docs to ProPublica. Harrington Holdings, a web of deception. It exploded federal raids. Dad's mugshot viral. He lawyered up. But the empire crumbled. Assets frozen. Partners fleeing. In the fallout,
He called.
not rage broken. Willow. I did it for us. The legacy. Your mother. She didn't understand. Lies to the end. But a sliver of pity stirred. Unbidden. The man who'd read me bedtime stories. Before the deal soured him. Autumn leaves turned blood red as Dad's trial loomed. Seattle's skyline a jagged reminder of his fall. Jake and we'd risen. My consulting firm, Willow Reed Investigations, maiden name reclaimed, boomed. Clients from coast to coast. We bought our first house, a fixer-upper in Fremont. Troll Bridge views and a yard for the dog we adopted. A mutt named Shadow. Jake's garage expanded, EVs humming under his hands. Life wasn't perfect. Nights when old ghosts whispered. Days dodging paparazzi, but it was ours. The controversy raged on. Protests outside the courthouse. Justice for Harrington. Split between loyalists decrying my betrayal and activists chanting for accountability. Talk shows booked me, then canceled when Dad's allies pulled strings. You're ruining American dreams, one host spat off mic. I fired back on my podcast. The dream's a lie when it's built on graves. Dad's defense? A circus of delays. Character witnesses painting him as a self-made titan. Mom's death.
Tragique accident.
My crash? Coincidence. But the evidence mounted. Witnesses flipping. Emails unsealed. I testified in October. Voice steady under fluorescent glare. He poisoned her ambition. Then her body. And when I saw the truth, he tried to erase me too. The courtroom gasped at the brake line photo. Tampered clip from the garage CCTV I'd subpoenaed. Dad stared.
Hollow-eyed.
No smirk left. His lawyer objected, but the judge, a no-nonsense woman from the 80s DA wars, let it stand. Post-testimony. Jake met me in the hall. Lily's name tattoo fresh on his wrist, a quiet vow to our lost almost. You slayed the dragon. Will. We celebrated with foe and a walk by the sound. Salt air washing the tension. But the real twist hit in November. Pre-sentencing. A letter arrived, handwritten, postmarked from a federal holding cell.
Dad.
Dearest Willow, if you're reading this,
The jury's in.
I won't beg, Harringtons don't. But truths demand their due. You were right about your mother. I loved her. Fiercely. But the deals. They consumed. She found the ledgers. Threatened exposure. I panicked. The pills were meant to calm her.
Not. That.
Accident turned felony in my fear. Your crash? Not me. The trucker was drunk. But the tip to tail you? My idiot brother. Thinking to scare you back. He confessed before the plea. I covered for family. Always the curse. And Jake. God. Willow. I investigated him young. Saw potential. Planted doubts to test you. But he passed. The gold digger smears? Desperation. Truth is, he's the son I wished I'd raised solid. Unviable. Forgive an old fool, or don't. But know I watched your rise from afar.
Proud.
Even as it burned. One last gift, the cabin in the Cascades. Deeded to you pre-trial. 4 new beginnings. Build what I couldn't.
Love.
Always, Dad. I read it thrice. Crumpled then smoothed it. Lies woven with half-truths? Or redemption's edge? Jake read over my shoulder. Jaw tight. Burn it.
No.
I folded it away. The cabin deed came next, rustic A-frame. Lakefront. Ours free and clear. We drove up that weekend, snow-dusting pines, and sat by the fire. What now? He asked.
Decide.
The controversial choice loomed. Testify for leniency at sentencing? Expose the uncle fully. Risking more fallout? Or let karma close the book? Focus on us, starting that family. Brick and mortar life. Sentencing day dawned gray. Dad in orange. Shackled. But head high. The judge eyed me. Statement. MS. Read. I stood. Heart thundering. He took my mother. Nearly took me. But he raised a fighter. Pauses rippled. 10 years. No less. Let him rot with his regrets. Gasps. Flashes. Dad's eyes met mine. Gratitude. Defeat. The gavel fell. 12 years. Asset forfeiture. His empire auctioned. We bid on the penthouse. Our 6th property flipped into condos for affordable housing. A middle finger to legacy. Dad's final appeal came months later. Post-appeal denial. Broke. Blacklisted. He showed at our door, fifth house. A craftsman in Ballard. Lily's nursery half-painted. Frail in wool overcoat. Breath-fogging November chill. Willow.
Jake. I.
Need help. Jake tensed beside me, but I stepped aside. One room. Basement. Earn it. Volunteer at the shelter. Tell your story to kids like you were. His nod was small. Shocked silence as he shuffled in.
No crawl.
No tears, just quiet surrender. We weren't family yet. Maybe never.
But mercy?
That was my revenge's sharpest twist. Years on. He mended slow. Story hours at the library. Apologies scrawled in shaky hand. Lily, our rainbow baby, born screaming in spring, cooed at his bedtime tales. Jake softened first. Sharing beers on the porch.
Me?
Forgiveness simmered. But I watched him build birdhouses with her tiny hands and thought, maybe empires fall so gardens grow. In the end, the sixth house, the sprawling estate we bought last, overlooking the bay, housed us all. Dad in the guest wing, tending roses, a ghost redeemed.
Shocked?
Hell yes. But alive. We thrived. And that, in America's brutal arena, was victory enough.